Okay, Donald Trump getting a little bit of good news, I guess, on this Friday. This is a victory for him because he's not going to be in court during the, kind of prime time season of running for office. Jack Smith wanted him in court on March 4th, which was kind of peculiar, right? Just saying. I mean, if of all the dates in the world, you have to pick the one right around Super Tuesday. He was like, okay, Donald Trump was like, this is election interference. Well, he might have had something there, right? Anyway, the judge wound up deciding that they're going to freeze the case while the appeal for the indictment on presidential immunity grounds moves through the court system, right? Because all of this kind of comes in stages. It's all, it's kind of confusing, I'll be honest, but you file here and then there and there and there, and everything kind of has to go in stages. Now, Jack Smith just wanted to go in straight to the Supreme Court, one of his cases anyway, and they were like, yeah, no, buddy, that's not how it works. You do have these procedures. And so this is part of those procedures. Word today that Donald Trump's March 4th trial on election fraud charges has been dropped from the court calendar because the judge, Tanya Chutkan, agreed to freeze the case while Trump appealed the indictment on presidential immunity grounds, and that was decided back in December. But now officially being removed from the court calendar signals that the case is actually not going to begin for several more months. So it's still happening. It's just going to be pushed down the road. Actually, it's going to push it closer to the presidential election in November. I don't know if I would love that, but I believe the Trump camp is seeing this sort of as a win because you still need to be out there doing the basic campaigning in the beginning. And my hunch is it's still going to get postponed. The other thing is you might actually have the court decide in the favor of immunity, in which case, like, this would all be a moot point. The Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals, in fact, is considering the case, and it's expected to go to the Supreme Court after that. Remember, Jack wanted to bypass that Court of Appeals and just take it straight to the Supreme Court. I mean, why? Because they're trying to stop him. They're trying to stop him any which way they can. And this is one of the, somebody said the other day, it's like lawfare instead of warfare. One legal professor saying that, this is actually, I'm quoting from a Newsweek article here, Newsweek reporting that one legal professor told Newsweek that there's this odd silence from the Court of Appeals about its schedule in the Trump immunity case. But any which way you slice it, you know what? This is kind of a victory for him, right? Because now he's not going to be in court. I mean, you could look at it one of two ways. He's actually strangely been sort of, well, not strangely, I get it, right? People are like, wait, you're going after him. You can go after me just like you're going after him. But he's just continued to almost be like made of Teflon, right? The more they come after him, the better he does in the polls. And so some might look at this and say, does it help him? Does it hurt? I frankly, I don't think it's great. Like, you don't want to be in court every day and you don't want this all plastered over the national headlines while you're trying to campaign. He's making the point it's like election interference. And I think it's pretty odd that they're so specific in their timing because they could have done a lot of this earlier, but they didn't. And one has to assume that that was in part for political reasons. So big win as far as he's concerned. If he actually became president, so if he wins, and by the way, a lot of polls showing he's way out in front. And wow, you look at some of those swing states and he's doing really, really well. And so if he were sworn in as president in January of 2025, then Trump could appoint possibly an attorney general who may be more favorable and possibly have these federal cases dropped. And so this is what perhaps he's angling towards. He could also seek to pardon himself. He could go to the Supreme Court maybe and have his criminal trials delayed. Because, I mean, guys, would it not be a little weird, right? The president of the United States being on trial for these criminal charges. It would really be quite something. The jury was supposed to be chosen, and that did not happen. Actually, all preparations were frozen after we reported, of course, that the Supreme Court refused to fast track that immunity case. So he's saying, you know what, I'm immune. I'm the president of the United States. I deserve this immunity. And Jack Smith's like, no, you don't. I'm taking this straight to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, buddy, you know what? We have a system for a reason. So you have to slow this down. You have to take it to the Court of Appeals in DC. And then depending on what they decide, then we'll look at it. So what does it do? It changes all the timing in this. And so this is good for him because now he can be out there campaigning as he had wanted to be doing. I mean, really, Jack Smith, the Super Tuesday week, it's just a little much. I mean, he's still got all these other things going on, right? You think about Georgia, think about what's going on. He's got the appeal of the E. Jean Carroll thing. You've got what's going on with his business in New York City, and they're trying to slap him with, what's the latest? Some over $250 million fine, and you can't do business in New York anymore. One after another, things are coming forward from the legal front to try and deter him. And then, of course, you got Colorado, you got Maine. None of that is really going to stick. I mean, I realize they're trying to make an argument on behalf of state rights, but ultimately, if the Republican Party is choosing someone and the voters are choosing someone, I don't think that's going to fly where you say, okay, well, we're not going to put you on the ballot, because think about that. I mean, how would you ever have a national election? Because every single state then would be in charge. Who would be really, really important would be who was ever making that decision in each and every state. And so you can't have that scenario. So again, Jack Smith, he is kind of losing out on this one, but it's probably the right thing to have happen at this point in time, because otherwise, I think he would have had some there on the whole election. I mean, he may still have some there on the election interference, but they're going to do everything they can. You know that already. We've been playing you all the clips. I mean, they're absolutely terrified. And so, I should qualify that. I don't know if they're entirely terrified. Maybe that's just the narrative. Maybe they just go with that because they want to make sure you're absolutely terrified. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Right? I played you the clip yesterday from the PBS Frontline documentary. Go look at Thursday, February 1st live show, the Trish Regan show, because we played that, the whole top of the show, and you see how they're patting themselves on the back. They got this former ABC, Disney's owned by ABC, producer to come in and help them create this mini-series narrative for the J6 trial. Well, they're proud of it. But at the same time, Americans are like, hang on, like what's true, what's not? You guys are trying to produce a mini-series instead of actually have real discussions and real discovery processes. And so that's where ultimately I think Donald Trump starts to carry some sway and carry some influence with voters. I mean, he does anyway, right? We know that the base is there, but he's got to go for the middle. Different ways to do that. I've been talking about getting a female VP only because I think that he's got to bring it. He's got to bridge the gap. And the polling data suggests he's really struggling with women. So he needs a woman that women like. So good luck. You gotta pick that one very, very carefully. He's got to get a great woman that other women relate to, they like, they can look up to, not be competitive with necessarily. It's very complicated stuff, but not Kamala Harris. Like the Kamala Harris disaster. But I don't think we have to worry about that, right? On the Republican side, I don't think we have to worry about that. He's got to get that gapped bridge. And in the meantime, he's got to work for towards these people in the middle. And I actually think that some of this legal stuff helps him in that respect. Hey, remember to subscribe, remember to thumbs up, share, do all those things. I will see you right back here live. We are live every day. I'll see you Monday live for the Trish Regan Show. Make sure you download the podcast on Apple Podcasts if you get it, and we'll talk then.